It's all fair and well to have a vision, but if you don't have a vision without traction, is mere hallucination. So, we can say where we want to be in 10 years' time, and we can articulate that simply and clearly, and we can, come up with our core values, which is the guiding principles that explain who we are. Very simple marketing strategy, which says, who defines who our ideal prospect is and the message that we're going to say. And we can also very simply articulate what it's going to look like, what this business is going to look like in 3 years' time. That's the vision piece, right? But then it's very important then that we actually get traction on that vision and we break it down into, well, what are we going to do in the next 12 months? That if we get these things done, revenue, profit, 3 to 7 most important strategic priorities, goals for the year, if we get them done, is going to lead into achieving that vision, achieving that 10-year plan. And then we go one step further and say, okay, well, what are we going to do in the next 90 days, next quarter? Revenue, profit, what are the rocks? What are the most important kind of strategic priorities that we're going to accomplish in the next 90 days that's going to allow us to get to the 1-year plan? Chunking it down like that makes it very real for business owners to make sure that they don't just kind of set a real big lofty goal and not prepared to go granular and understand and commit to what they need to do right now in the next 90 days to make traction on it and achieve it.
And just to clarify, the rocks are basically quarterly goals.
Yeah, so rocks came from a concept of, imagine there's a vase and that vase represents the time that you have as a business and as an individual. And then you've got, you got these rocks, which are like big quarterly priorities, the most important things that you need to achieve. You got pebbles, which are all the things that you've got to do in your role. They might not be as important, but you got to do them. And then you got sand, which represents all the wasted time and distraction. The problem with business today is that people don't get that concept. And what they do with their time, with their vase, is they throw the sand in, then the pebbles, and there's no room for the rocks. There's no room for the major, important strategic objectives that are really going to advance your business forward in that 3 to 10 year goal. What we do when we work with leadership teams is we teach them the concept and we get them to define what their rocks are. What are the 3 to 7 most important things you need to do this quarter? We put the rocks in the vase, then they overlay the pebbles with the things they need to do. Obviously, not everything fits, but then you leave minimal room for the sand. That's how you get things done.
Incredible. And the scorecard?
So the scorecard is another way to track your accountability. Yeah. So we said we were going to do these numbers or achieve these things. So the whole concept of the scorecard is this: what are the 5 to 15 most important numbers in your business that if you track them weekly, right, you get a real kind of pulse on your business? Now, just imagine this. Imagine you weren't here. Imagine you were on a desert island and all you had was the bellboy coming to you kind of every week. No internet, no phone, no computer. And all they did was hand you a piece of paper with these 5 to 15 numbers every week. The question is this: receiving those numbers, seeing those numbers change week to week, would you know how your business is performing? Would you get a real pulse on how it's performing? If the answer is yes, they're your 5 to 15 numbers. We work with leadership teams to identify those numbers, get them tracking that, setting a target each week, making sure that the numbers are more leading, not lagging, right? There are more things that.
What do you mean by that?
So what I mean by that is, profit might be a lagging indicator. We want to make X amount of money in the next quarter. There's things that you need to do in a business to make profit. You can't just say, I want profit. You got to do certain things. So what we do is we look at, say, for sales, how many sales calls have we made? How many new leads have we generated? Little things like that to make sure that, we're concentrating week to week on the things that actually will move the needle later on, will move profit later on, not profit itself each week.
We get things that cause profit rather than the profit itself.
Exactly. So we track them week to week. That's what we call a scorecard. And it helps us stay accountable to achieving the vision.
It's kind of like a scorecard because it keeps score on a weekly basis of what you're doing. You know where you're supposed to be and it tells you what you actually got.
Absolutely. And, when you're not getting it, what are you going to do about it? I think anyone that comes on board in your business, firstly, they don't need to come on board. You have to sell it, kind of attracting and getting them inspired in a vision, in where the business is going. I tend to find that all the great players in my business, they all wanted to know that my business partner and I had a vision for that business and we had a standard. And we were also very honest in those conversations to say, we are actually not nowhere near there yet. But the reason why we're having this meeting is we've identified that you've got you've got this ability to come on board and actually help us with it. Come and join us on this journey. It was never, look how good we are, kind of impressing the candidate. You actually need to be vulnerable and let the candidate know we're deficient in this area. We're weak we're strong in these areas. But we've realized we're deficient in these areas. This is where we would like to be in 10 years' time. And you look like that person that has got those skills in that area, and you got that drive. That's why we want to have this conversation to see if you wanted to come on board and be a part of the team. We'd love you to have a look at it. And by the way, it's going to be really hard. That's the other thing. That's the other tip I would give is never sell an easy job. Be polite, but always let them know it's going to be hard work. It's going to be tough. You're going to have challenges. So I'd always present a very real, very challenging role. There would be two types of people. People that the eyes would actually go wider and wider and be excited, and they'd be like, let me at this problem. They're the people that you want. The people that didn't have that reaction and had any other kind of reaction, they were the people that you knew when times got tough, eventually you'd have the role to be filled again.
I honestly think that what you said just then was some of the best advice I've ever heard. If you brought out a contract to work for you, I would have signed it just then.
I see a lot of business owners, or even my managers, like in those situations, they feel like they need to sell the company and they need to say how good that company is and how good we are and we have achieved this, we've achieved that. A great candidate who's productive, and they want a challenge. They want to come on board and they want to leave their impression, their mark on the business. And when they do, they want to be recognized for it in all ways. That's the fair deal. And I just feel as though sometimes when we get early success, we find ourselves pitching our company of how good we are, when the truth is, like, that doesn't need to be said. That's just known, right? Doesn't need to be said. What needs to be said is, but we've got so far to go. But this is where we want to go. And we have weaknesses, and we're talking about, we're talking right now because we feel like you can come on board and make us a better company. Do you want to accept that challenge? It's going to be tough. Do you want to accept it? People that lean in, they're yours. No matter what the role is, I need to understand what the valuable end result that they need to produce in that role that they get paid for. I need to know what that valuable end result is. And when I understand what that valuable end result is, for example, in construction, a well-built project that's, profitable, delivered safely, high quality for a client that wants to work with us again, something like that, like one sentence that really sums up the valuable end result they need to achieve. If I just got agreement with that person that is the result they need to achieve, and we've got some measurables in place to be able to see how we're going with that or not objectively, so it's not an opinion-based thing, then the rest of how they did that, that's their part. It's not my part to micromanage and tell that person, now do this, now do that, because then you're not managing, you're doing the work. And I think just getting really clear on the valuable result that needs to be achieved, what that looks like, and having some system in place to give them and myself kind of guidance on whether they're achieving that, getting closer to that ideal scene or not. That's the essence of management, and not stepping in there and doing their work. But equally, when they're not, being able to kind of go in there and coach the person to help them figure out where they may be needing improvement. Is there someone else that's got the skills that we need to bring in to help with training? So there's that leadership kind of aspect, but they've got to do the lion's share of working out the answers. And the minute that you try to be everyone's answer person, well, I can tell you right now, you're not going to grow a very big business, and certainly not a successful one.